Every article I found during my research that mentions having played Sonic Blast Man would inevitably mention one of the author's friends injuring themselves. I read about sprained wrists, cut fingers, and most importantly, broken hands. I say most importantly because a broken hand is what Wisconsin teenager Chad Thayer claimed to have suffered when he sued Taito in 1994 on the grounds that Sonic Blast Man was an unreasonably dangerous game.
Angel Knot.
Salutations to the nations. What's good, Angel Knots? It's your boy Young Sinai. So today we're going to be watching a video by Pop Culture Hyperfixations. Make sure you go check them out. It is called The Story of Sonic Blast, the world's most dangerous video game. I don't think I've ever heard of Sonic Blast. Let me know, have you? I'm sorry, Sonic Blast Man. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Let's go ahead and check this out.
There has been a never-ending discourse around the dangers of video games. The argument has frequently been made that video games, particularly violent ones, have a negative effect on one's mental health.
What do y'all think about that? Do y'all think that's true or false? I used to believe it was false, but now I believe it is true.
All sorts of games have been labeled as dangerous, from Mortal Kombat, to Night Trap, to Mario Party. Listen, people say Grand Theft Auto promotes aggression. That's nothing compared to the rage I feel when Mario Party inevitably cheats me out of my win.
That's funny, but I'm not gonna lie. I've seen some, and I'm not saying criminals won't be criminals, right? But I've seen some stuff online, like people getting locked up for stuff, like young people, like teenagers doing stuff that look like it came straight out of GTA. Like, you know, it's kind of a which came first, the chicken or the egg type thing, or is life imitating art or art imitating life? But I don't know.
But whereas those games have been accused of harming people mentally, what if I told you of a game that harmed people physically? A game that was so dangerous it had to be destroyed. What manner of evil contraption can cause such misery with reckless abandon? Kneel before whatever God you believe in and pray for mercy as we gaze into the
Jesus Christ.
The abyss of the world's most dangerous video game.
He is greater than anybody else. The man came to save our planet. That's the Sonic Blast Man.
Sonic Blast Man, you know who he looks like? Hold on. Let me make sure I ain't tripping. Yo, I'm gonna show you who he looked kind of like. He looked kind of like Bible Man. Am I tripping? Hold up.
That's the Sonic Blast Man.
I can still remember the first time I saw Sonic Blast Man. Like so many
I'm colorblind, so it might not look nothing alike on second thought. I don't know.
These kids, as long as they've existed, there has been a never-ending discourse. Was the massive arcade. It was in that arcade, but it's mainly
Sonic Blast Man.
I can still remember the first time I saw Sonic Blast Man. Like so many 90s kids, nothing was better than a trip to the local arcade. Our local spot was named Starland, and as far as I was concerned, it was the raddest place on earth. It had go-karts, bumper boats, that weird tank game I never once saw anyone playing. But its main attraction was the massive arcade. It was in that arcade that my parents and I first laid eyes on Sonic Blast Man. In the game, you are the titular Sonic Blast Man, and it's your job to save people by defeating enemies of increasing difficulty. Only you didn't beat the game with button combinations or impeccable timing. You beat the game by beating the game up. Sonic Blast Man was made by a company called Taito. Taito is probably best known at that point for creating the games Bubble Bobble, Arkanoid, and
okay, so it has nothing to do with Sonic the Hedgehog.
especially Space Invaders. Not content with creating regular arcade cabinets, Taito wanted to create something different. To do so, they created a unique game that harkened back to the days of those old test your strength with a mallet carnival games. The mechanics behind Sonic Blast Man are fairly simple. Players would put on a boxing glove and hit a padded cushion as hard as they could. The game would measure the PSI of the hit and subtract it from your enemy's health.
They kind of got that now, though, so I wonder what made that different than what's currently in the arcades.
You got 3 punches, and if your cumulative PSI was enough, you beat the level. The website imockery.com compared the game to that scene of Rocky IV where Ivan Drago is demonstrating his punching power, and you have no idea how genuinely upset I was that they made that connection before I could. While the trips to Starland were originally meant for me, It quickly became apparent that this game had an effect on my father, who became determined to beat it. I have such vivid memories of my dad waiting with a bunch of other dads, determined that this time he was going to kick the game's ass. The game had 5 stages with increasing difficulty. The harder the enemy, the more it was going to take to knock them out. In the first stage, you must stop a woman from being mugged by what is essentially one of the bad guys from Death Wish 3. Then you must stop a truck from running over a baby. Never mind that Sonic Blast Man is presumably killing an innocent driver, or that he could just fly and grab the baby.
You're boring everybody! Quit boring everyone!
In level 3, you have to destroy a skyscraper, which is apparently managed by terrorists. Man, Sonic Blast Man had no sense of collateral damage, did he? Level 4 is pretty cool. You have to try and knock out a giant robotic crab terrorizing a beach.
That makes me think of, what did I just watch? I just watched something with a superhero that didn't care, who was messing everything up. Oh, what was it? Dag, I can't think of it.
I do enjoy that it has to be a robot. You know someone pitched that it should be a mutant crab, and they got yelled at by their boss for not taking their job seriously. My dad spent many an afternoon knocking the legs off that crab, but it was always the next and final level that he could never conquer. The last and toughest level in the game is about stopping an asteroid from destroying Earth.
Your call. No pressure.
That level was incredibly difficult to beat, but man oh man did my dad try. I'm sure a good chunk of my college fund was converted to quarters as my father punched hole after hole into that meteor to no avail. Sonic Blast Man related income instability was probably pretty common though, as it was an incredibly popular arcade cabinet. The industry magazine Playmeter frequently had it in its top 10 of most popular games. The game even appeared multiple times on the British video game show Games Master, where they had professional boxers on to demonstrate the gameplay. It really says a lot about the differences between England and America, that England got a dark and gritty video game show like Games Master, and us American kids got the guy from Nick Arcade singing his every thought.
New people coming to visit me. Put up the hut and chop a squat.
You could rightfully say that there were a multitude of reasons for Sonic Blast Man's success. You could say its sense of humor, or its clever game design, but if we're really being honest, the biggest factor to its popularity was probably the male ego. My dad—
Man, if a boxer couldn't win that last level, a normal mere mortal has no chance.
Dad didn't stand in line to play Sonic Blast Man by himself.
I'm still trying to remember what show that was. That had that was causing all types of damage and the person didn't care. If I remember, I'm gonna pin it in the comments. That is driving me nuts.
He stood with a lot of other dads, each with something to prove. If it wasn't dads, then it was teenagers trying to impress each other, or more likely girls they liked, by showing them how hard they can punch. There is nothing a woman finds more arousing than punching a building as hard as you can. By showing people that you could beat the game, it would, to paraphrase a great American, demonstrate that you are oozing machismo. The game was so popular it even got a port to the Super Nintendo, albeit with different game mechanics. It makes sense. I don't think Nintendo was too keen to market a game that encouraged people to destroy their televisions. I mean, not yet. The Wii was still 20 years away.
And what happened? Oh, jeez! And there goes the tennis racket!
Sonic Blast Man for Super Nintendo was a side
That's why you gotta put on the wristband.
scroller game a la a Final Fight or a Streets of Rage. The Super Nintendo version did have the arcade levels, but they were bonus stages and were more about timing instead of brute force. The consensus seems to be that the game wasn't that great, although it does have its fans. The sequel, cleverly called Sonic Blast Man 2, is the game people seem to prefer and received a far better critical reception. So now we have to do that annoying YouTuber thing where I ask a rhetorical question I already know the answer to, but pretend like I don't. So if this game was so popular, how come you never see him anywhere? Rock 5 that surrounded the cabinet, that was also likely its downfall. I don't know if you know this, but sometimes guys can be very cabinet, that was also likely its downfall. I don't know if you know
That dude was beating the crap out of that thing.
this, but sometimes guys can be very stupid, especially when it comes to safety regulations. The game insisted you wear a boxing
This is why it says that women mature faster than guys.
glove and stay stationary while punching, but a lot of people took that as merely a suggestion. Instead, they would barehand the machine or get a running start. They figured the cushion would protect them, which was true, but they didn't consider that behind that cushion was a metal rod. As you might imagine, after testosterone-induced wear and tear, the cushion would become damaged, leaving that rod exposed. This led to a rash of injuries. Every article I found during my research that mentions having played Sonic Blast Man would inevitably mention one of the author's friends injuring themselves. I read about sprained wrists, cut fingers, and most importantly, broken hands. I say most importantly because the broken hand is what Wisconsin teenager Chad Thayer claimed to have suffered when he sued Taito in 1994 on the grounds that Sonic Blast Man was an unreasonably dangerous game. As far as I can tell, that was the only injury to get mainstream media attention, but it was far from the only injury Sonic Blast
He was just soft. He just had little soft hands. That's all that was.
Man would cause. According to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, there were at least 70 Sonic Blast Man injuries that Taito was made aware of. That's not including the likely hundreds or maybe even thousands of injuries that Taito
Let me know, have you ever played this game? And if so, has it ever sent you to the hospital?
wasn't informed of. As of this video, Sonic Blast Man currently holds the Guinness World Record for most real-life injuries for players of a beat-em-up video game. A record that will likely stand unless Mario Party ever makes it to the arcade. Stop the steal, Toadette! The commission investigated Taito and felt that they had not done enough to prevent those injuries. As a result, Taito was fined $50,000. In March of 1995, Taito saw the writing on the wall and decided to cut bait as they voluntarily ordered a recall of all Sonic Blast Man to the United States. There are unverified reports that not only were they to be taken out of arcades, but that they were to be destroyed. The franchise continued on in Europe and Asia, and Taito released a couple sequels. First with a game called Real Puncher, and then with Sonic Blast Heroes. As you can see from this video, old Sonic Blast Mans are still floating out there in the wild, just not in America. They are incredibly rare in the United States, and even the most hardcore arcade collectors have difficulty finding it.
Yo, is that saying that North Americans punch harder than the rest of the world? Let me know. I know I got some international viewers as well. So, how come they had to recall ours? Because they was beating the cushion off of it, but y'all are still perfectly intact. Let me know. I ain't trying to start a war, but I mean, let me know.
Between the destruction of the old cabinets and the general wear and tear of video game that encourage players to commit acts of violence upon itself, finding one in good working condition is nearly impossible. Despite its status as the world's most dangerous game, those that experienced it have fond memories of it. Seeing that giant arcade cabinet immediately unlocks a memory for anyone who experienced it. Maybe it was from watching your father get unnecessarily frustrated he couldn't punch an asteroid to death. Maybe it's from thinking that the best way to make sure your crush notices you is to save this baby from that truck. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because you broke your wrist because wearing a boxing glove was for sissies. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please...
Yo, that was very fun. Shout outs to Pop Culture Hyperfixation. That was a great video. Let me know in the comments, like I said, have you played that game? Also, let me know, are people around the world soft? Or I know y'all gonna come for me. Y'all gonna come for me. You feel me? But no, I'm just playing. It's all fun. Let me know. I appreciate you guys. And please make sure that you like and subscribe. I'm on my journey to 1,000 subs. If you subscribe, then you will see that you can potentially win a Trim UI brick if you look in the post. And I appreciate you guys. God bless and salutations to the nations. International people, please don't try to show me how well you can punch by punching my face, but you can punch that like button. All right, peace.
Angel Knot.